Welcome to the Dating Kinky Podcast, a cast about love, sex, romance, and kink. Do you know your love languages? Have you heard of them? Mine are quality time and gifts. My pet is touch and words of affirmation. There's also acts of service. Hearing these, or knowing about them, you probably know that how people receive love can be very different, whether they're in a relationship or not. And that leads me to today's topic. What is romance? How do you define it? I recently wrote about An Officer and a Gentleman and the idea of grand romances and comparing our love lives to a highly edited highlights reel of a movie. And in truly oblivious fashion, someone spent quite a bit of time trying to convince me that romance requires pain and sacrifice to be romance. All the rest is simply affection and not grand at all. They also presumed to judge my own romance, or lack thereof, by a few examples I gave from the past 3 months of my life and to suggest that I don't actually want a grand romance. Oh, for fuck's sake, seriously. But that does beg the question. What is romance? I was going to reference some of what they said, but when I just went back to look, it seems like they deleted their comments. I really hate when people do that after others have put time and energy into the conversation. So I'll have to paraphrase it. Here's what I shared when it comes to romance. Romantic, adjective, having, showing, expressive of, or conducive to feelings of love or romance. Imaginative, but impractical, visionary. Romance, noun, a love affair. Ardent emotional attachment or involvement between people. Love. Ardent, adjective, expressing or characterized by warmth of feeling, passionate. Displaying or characterized by strong enthusiasm or devotion, fervent. To me, this means that expressions of passion for, strong enthusiasm for, or devotion to another are romantic. And that can be a huge range of things, from the small and semi-ordinary, like a love note left for me one night to find when I woke in the morning, random swinging me into dancing in the middle of cooking together, reaching out to pat my ass as he walks by, kissing me when he leaves and telling me that he loves me every single time, to the larger, planning a birthday celebration for me, buying me flowers, getting me a gift when he travels out of town, learning my love language and speaking it even when he doesn't really get it, supporting and engaging in my kinks with me. To the extreme, upending his entire life to be with me, saying it was infatuation at first sight, and telling the story whenever I ask him to. The most amazing non-sex I've ever had. It's a long story, but the Cliff's Notes version is we connected in a way that felt like we were literally inside each other's bodies and minds and were like 100% energy blending. And I've never been able to explain it or even met anyone who's experienced anything like it. And it was totally spontaneous, unexpected, and left lasting feelings that I still can't adequately explain. But to me, the smaller things that can be done daily, weekly, even quarterly, are the most important parts of romance. They are the foundation. Like a pyramid, the top tip is much smaller. If all you're doing for romance is the big stuff, the sacrifice stuff, the flash mobs and grand gestures, you still have a very small tip. It takes all of the other stuff to make a grand romance, or a wonder of the world, for me. The other person said that romance is only romance if it's sacrifice, if it's unusual and hard to come by, if it's tragic or it includes upheaval. And I get part of that, I do. But is that the whole of it? Not in my world. Let me put this another way. In some cases, the grand gesture is easier. It's not a part of the daily grind. It's not something you have to remember or do even when you're tired or cranky or just feeling down. It doesn't get you huge points. It's just consistent, loving, And it requires making someone feel loved and seen and understood and desired for exactly who they are every day. For months, years, decades even. Creating a highlights reel of your daily lives, making a romance out of a Tuesday breakfast with a small note, or out of a springtime hike with a blanket and a picnic lunch, and I love you, and maybe a bit of outdoor hanky-panky. Turning a car ride into a moment of connection and love by changing the lyrics to a song. Turning the mundane into displays of passion and desire and ardency is, to me, what makes the grand gestures not only possible, but romantic at all. Because without the love, a grand gesture is just creepy and sad. But that's me. What are your thoughts? How would you define romance? Is it only the big things you must sacrifice for? Is it in the details? A combination? And for those who are willing, please share one or a few of your favorite romantic gestures that you've received or given over the years. Thank you for joining me today. If you loved this episode, please share it with others who would enjoy it. And please do join me at datingkinky.com and on our new apps available in the Google Play and Apple App Stores. It's built by Kinksters for Kinksters, poly, queer, trans folk, and anyone not quite vanilla, and it's free. Find me on FetLife as Nookie Notes, and on Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, and Medium as Dating Kinky. We are on Instagram as Dating Kinky Official, all one word. Have a kinky day, and I'll catch you next episode.